now that Republicans got their wish and, they won, they packed the Supreme Court and all that good stuff. Going back to immigration, it's ironic to me that somebody like, if Republicans had their way, Myra Flores' family would never be welcome in the United States.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And it's ironic to me that, she feels so stoutly Republican when that party wouldn't lift a finger to the modern Republican Party, conservative.
Okay, so let me just push back on that a little bit, because having been there, when you're in that situation, or when you're in that ideology, right? You don't see yourself as a Hispanic primarily, or as a Mexican primarily. You see yourself as an American, and you want to do what's best for America, even if it means, not letting any more brown people in, or whatever. You don't see that as your team. You don't see that as your people. You see America as your people, white, black, and brown. So it's not even necessarily even a racial issue. It's like a team issue. It's like America's my team, right?
It's funny you say that. As it's here in the Valley, like, there's a generation of us, people our age. Myra's our age.
Yeah, I graduated with her.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, and so when we were kids, there was a very, very strong directive to assimilate. When we were kids growing up in the 90s, like, what was, you had the Dallas Cowboys, America's team,
right?
Michael, Republicans buy shoes to Jordan. These were the people, these are the tentpole of our culture. And so you didn't think of yourself. It's always funny when you're at the quinceañeras and stuff like that, and you're celebrating how rancho you are. When you actually go into Mexico, you're like, oh my God, like, do people live there? Like, I have $1. Do you take dollars? Like,
how do people live like this?
Exactly. And I liken it, a little bit, if you look at history, like, poor white people who would benefit from progressive policies, or, like the poor white people who were also like anti-abolitionists, who wanted to maintain slaves because they could other them. And I think, you see a little bit of that playing out within our culture, where we were raised to, I remember almost getting kicked out of school because I needed to learn English. And, if he doesn't learn English, he can't come to school. And that was, TV was already in color at the time, you know what I mean? And so I think that kind of plays out with it too. Our generation of folks, like I said, like my parents became Americans because of Ronald Reagan. We're at a point where we're the age group that's getting into the political arena. And I think the shift that you're seeing like coincides with that cultural upbringing that we had. That was 1,000% like American, you got to be American, speak English here. You know what I mean?
You see, but there's a sweet spot in that too, man. Like there's a sweet spot in taking pride in being American and, loving your country, being your country, but also, like not have on like I'm kidding myself goggles, about like things that this country's done in the past, or even what we've done in third world countries, even what we've done in Latin America. A lot of the reasons why we do have a whole lot of bad immigration issues, right? A lot of it's because of our meddling in South America.
Yeah, that too.
And it's the hyper nationalism that I can't get on board with, because I love my country. I'm glad I was born here. I don't say like we're the best because I feel like we have the best healthcare, or like we have like the best like education system, or because we have because we clearly don't, right? But I say we're the best because I think the principles that were at the founding of the country, right? Maybe not lived through by the founders, right? But the ones that they set up for the country, I think those were unique to their time, right? And I think, they've given us, the most powerful country that's ever existed, And so I'm loyal to the principles of this country, but that doesn't mean that I can't criticize the country, or that I don't, or that I shouldn't want to work to make it better, right? It's just like I support police, but that doesn't mean that I don't criticize police. There's this strong, and it's the left and the right's pulling at each other, where if the left criticizes the police, the right's going to do everything to just defend them no matter what. I think these polarities, are one of the reasons why we just can't like come to agreement on anything, right? Because the extremes just always are, or just always like pushing each other, So there's this story that I tell going back to immigration that now looking back, I'm ashamed of it, right? At the time, I was maybe 19, 20, but I would listen to a lot of Rush Limbaugh at the time, and Sean Hannity, a lot of the Fox News guys.
Pour one out for Rush Limbaugh.
And so I was real like illegal immigration. And again, in my mind, it had nothing to do with any like the brown people are coming, even though that was brown, right? It had more to do with I'm on Team America, and we have laws, and they got to respect our laws. I was really into that. So this one night, we live out in the country at this time. We get a knock on the door, right? I think my dad was watching like Bill O'Reilly or something, And
pour one out for Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly, right? pour one out for his career.
Yeah.
And so like it's these two migrants, right? You can tell that they come from across the border, and they look tired. They were asking us for food, right? And so like right away, like my antennas go up. Like, these people are here illegally. We need to call somebody so we can deport them back, right? You say that, right? Like, what an asshole, right?
Que te valga, bro.
Right. And so, like, but no, dude. And my dad, he not only gave them food, but he asked them if they needed like a ride to where they were going. And I was fuming, right? Because now you're aiding criminals, bro. Like, you can get in trouble for this, right? At that time, he was barely getting into politics, and I already thought I knew everything, because I listened to Rush. I was a ditto head, man, And so he asked me to go with him. I was pissed off, so eventually I went, right? They were making conversation. And it was obvious. I was sitting in the front. It was obvious to everybody that I was angry, right? My dad was just talking to them like they were human beings. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Right?
God forbid, right?
God. And then so we dropped him off. And then on the way back, I look at my dad and I tell him, you just broke the law. That you did what you weren't supposed to do. He just looks at me and he goes, dude, shut up. He goes, these are people, man. These are people who are desperate, who are hurting. Like, what a way to look at things, right? And obviously, like, I thought I was right, so I just went back and I was like, man, that's some bullshit, Only years later, dude, when I catapulted myself out of that like ideology and that mindset, I think about damn how easy it is to get brainwashed, man. Like how easy it is to get brainwashed into saying and doing like repulsive shit, because you think you're doing it for the team, because you think you're doing it for your country, right? Like you're an ass